aleikom. My name is Anaya and I am the founder of With Productive Muslima. Today's video is my hijab story. How did I put on the hijab? What inspired me? How did I do it? What steps did I take? All that jazz. If you have questions, comment below and I'll do my best to get back to you. So when did it start? I would say since I was a child. I remember being 9 years old and just not feeling comfortable with short sleeve shirts. It wasn't anything anyone said. I just didn't feel comfortable, And when I was around age of 12, 11, 12, 13, I would wear a headscarf around my neck to cover the chest area. But and I would wear a dress, dress modestly, but I did not wear the hijab itself. And at the time I was going to a Sunday school, and I remember my Sunday school teacher, I'm not gonna say her name, but she was one of the people who just had the biggest smile on her face. She was really kind. She radiated just warmth and kindness. And I remember she shared her story about how she made dua to Allah. And she said that in her dua, she told Allah that when her parents perform Umrah, she's going to put on the hijab. And she also asked Allah to allow her to put it on before age of 21. And she said, I believe within the next month or so of her making that dua, she heard from her parents that they were going for Umrah. And this is, she said, there was no discussion of that at all in their house. No one has said anything. It wasn't planned. And no one else knew of her intention to put the hijab on. She said it was just a conversation between her and Allah. But she knew that because this is something she said to Allah, she had to keep her promise. And so she put on the hijab. I think something about this story just moved me around that age. But coming from growing up in a school where there were no Muslims, my elementary and middle school, there were no Muslims around me. And then in high school, there were a few, but they were not a very practicing Muslims. And so within my city, it also, the city that I lived in, was not very diverse either. And so all of that it scared me. And I believe that just it's the years, you're a teen, there are all these hormonal changes within you, right? That you're trying to you're not understanding so much. There's so many things that are confusing. Your emotions are all over the place, and you don't understand what you want, you don't know who you are. And amongst these things, there was this need within me to wear the hijab, but I didn't know how. I didn't know what I needed to do. So I started to make dua, asking Allah. In my head, I thought, I'm gonna put it on when I get older. I'm gonna put it on when I don't know if I was thinking when I get married, or because I wasn't thinking of marriage at that age at all. It was just not even there. So I think I was thinking when I'm old and wrinkly, and in my head, if I when I'm ugly, I'm just gonna put it on then. But I also knew that doesn't work that way. So I mean, keep in mind, I'm 13 years old, so really it's just lingering on the back of my mind. And so I was just making dua, Ya Allah, make it easy, help me put it on. And I decided to do what my teacher did, because I knew 21 was far away. So I told myself that I'm gonna make the same dua, Ya Allah, allow me to put it on before I was 21. And so subhanallah, for my graduation, I asked my parents to let me travel back home to see my grandfather and attend my cousin's wedding. And so that was my first Ramadan in a Muslim country, where I was wearing the hijab, I was fasting, I was hearing the adhan. And funny thing, every Ramadan in the States, I would put on the hijab. age 13, 14, 15, I would wear the hijab and take it back off. Like somehow during Ramadan, it was so easy for me to do that, but outside of it, I struggled. And so that summer, I would say this was age 17, I wore it, and subhanAllah, I just felt this peace in my heart. And I knew that I wanted to keep it. So when we came back to the States, I decided to keep it on and I started college. But this is when the challenge began. The people that were my friends, and I'm talking about even the Muslims, they were picking on me. So they were making comments like, you're trying to impress someone, you're trying to marry someone who like prefers you to wear the hijab. I knew no one. I had no, I didn't even have a thought of a marriage at that age in my head. I didn't have the desire to get married to anyone. I was so fixated and focused on going to med school, becoming a doctor, and really like helping other people that these comments were just like, I don't know, very shocking and confusing, but also upsetting, especially because it was coming from Muslims, you know. And yeah, some told me that I was too young. Some told me that it was just a phase. Others said that, you know, for someone who's educated, like I was making a horrible decision. And really, it was a mix of comments from Muslims and non Muslims, and it made it really difficult. And so, after a couple months, I unfortunately took it back off. And so, this was at 17. But subhanallah, months went by and I started to feel this intense anxiety in my heart. Like I didn't feel comfortable and I didn't know what it was. I didn't know how to get rid of it, how to stop it. And when I spoke with my physician, they said it's anxiety, like you're just anxious. And all of a sudden, but it didn't make sense to me. I'm just like, this is not just a random anxiety. Like this is not, I have a routine, I do things. There is nothing that should be making me this worried. And on the outside, to everyone else, it looked like I had everything, you know, I had it together. And that's what it, like, you know, I remember just having this journal and I would write down every single day, like every single thing that I needed to do for the day, and just like check off every single task one by one. And it didn't make sense, like why am I feeling this anxiety when I have it together? But then I noticed something amongst all these things. Like there was one time or specific times when I felt completely at peace, and that was in prayer. But like I couldn't just stay on a prayer mat all day long just to feel at peace. And then I thought to myself, what if it's not just the prayer mat, it's actually the hijab that I put on during prayer, you know? And so month of Ramadan was approaching and I had like a few days of my fast to make up. And so I decided to make up those fasts. And because I was making up the fasts, I don't know what it was, but I decided to wear the hijab and you know, make up the fasts. And subhanallah, I remember instantly noticing the peace the next day when I started my fast. And I stepped outside and I didn't feel the anxiety. And all of a sudden, I didn't need anything. Like I was completely fine. And that's how I knew that this anxiety was put in my heart by the most merciful Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim, to protect me, because I wasn't strong enough myself to put it on. But Allah made me strong enough to put it on, because dealing with comments from people was a lot easier than dealing with this internal anxiety that just would not go away. And subhanAllah, once I put it on, I kept it on. Ramadan came and I kept it on, and then Ramadan ended and I still kept it on, and I went on with my college and I, you know, made some amazing friends. I completely you know, changed my circle of friends because I realized that if these people are not supporting who I am becoming, right? Who I want to be, because they were fine with me praying, they were fine with me fasting, they were fine with me dressing modestly, but what they weren't fine with was me looking visibly Muslim. And don't get me wrong, like my clothes were modest, they weren't tight, they weren't revealing, but it was the fact that now I was visibly Muslim. Like, I have the hijab on, I'm wearing a baya, or I'm preferring to wear dresses over, pants or jeans. And so then I came to realize that if someone does not, like, if they care for you, they will care for you, not for what you look like. And the best kind of friendships to have are the friendships that lead you closer to Allah, that help you build that connection with Allah, not drift you further away, or not um, pull you or make it harder for you to worship Allah. And so, yeah, this is kind of how I put it on. And alhamdulillah, I am so grateful that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guided me and made it easy for me. I know the journey wasn't exactly easy, because I remember when I first put it on, because of still this discomfort, and not discomfort with the hijab, but the comments and just having to get used to, I started off with a turban, and I felt more comfortable wearing a turban and then throwing a scarf like around my neck to cover the chest area, to have like a neck coverage and a chest area coverage. And I know that there was still judgment about that, but it took a while to transition the full wardrobe, to go from shirts to like longer tops and, a little bit looser fitting, and from jeans to like dresses and skirts and stuff, or abayas. And I would say that if you are going through this journey, just know that Allah sees your intentions, Allah knows what's in your heart, and no one else does. People will give you their advice. Some may be judgmental, some may be very critical, and others mean well. But there is an etiquette of, to for providing advice in a way that's kind and compassionate. And the best thing you can really do is ask the person, what do you need from me? How do you need me to show up for you, to help you on this journey? And you'd be surprised what they will tell you. I really wish that someone was there at the time and asked me, like, what do you need help with? This is kind of random, but I remember just like a couple months ago at the masjid, I met this revert, and this was during the summer. So I remember it was really hot outside, and poor thing, she was wearing um, like this undershirt under her white top that was a little bit see-through, and so the undershirt was a little too thick, and she was wearing a ninja underscarf, but then um, the material of her scarf was too thick, so it was too many layers, not breathable materials, and she was struggling. And I remember that was my first time meeting her, but she has met other girls within the masjid, and I she decided to ask me. She was just like, "Hey, do you have any tips or anything? Like, I like your style, but like, I don't really know." Like, I could see that she was trying to ask a question, and I was like, "Look, go ahead, just ask whatever it is that you want to ask." And she was like, "I'm just not used to this. Like, I feel guilty saying this, but I just feel too hot, and I don't know how people do it." And that was when I suggested to invest in some quality pieces like cotton or linen, breathable materials, and shared some links to the sites that would allow her to, you know, that are more budget friendly, but also some things unfortunately are not really budget friendly, especially for hijabis, and will require you to spend a little more. but it is something that you will, if you are, I mean, that's just my opinion, if you are gonna get a lot of use out of it, it's worth the investment. And so I just wish someone told me, hey, this is how you can make sure that you're not, burning in the heat outside in the summer because you don't know which material is best to wear. And, or like the hijab style that works really best for you. I know people say that there's no hijab style, but really trust me, like how you tie it makes the whole difference, especially at the beginning when you're getting used to wearing it. Like you think that your head just looks strange, okay? Like because your whole, like, your face is just in the center of attention all of a sudden, and you're not used to just seeing your face. And so, yeah, it's just things like that. But inshallah, there are some lessons within this, you know, story that you are benefiting from. Like I said, leave your comments below if you have any questions. If you have any suggestions for next video, share that as well. And I'll see you next one. Salam.